Nour di fondo rubero da barca. Naia di Santiago, ten no mano mendi ten cacà. Nanya si gomo cusese, Nour di fondo rubero da barca. Via di Santiago, ten corpigno d'algodon, saia di cita con cordon, un par di brinco rodapion. Via di Santiago, ten contigno d'algodon, saia di cita con cordon, un par di brinco rodapion. Naia di Santiago, ten caia niño, ten codè, New Enrique con un novo, na bibigna la di funo curral di baixo. Naia di Santiago, ten caia niño, ten codè, New Enrique con un novo, na bibigna la di funo curral di baixo. Via di Santiago, ten corpigno d'algodon, saia di cita con cordon, un par di brinco rodapion. Via di Santiago, ten corpigno d'algodon, saia di cita con cordon, un par di rinco rodapion. Naia di Santiago, ten sengalobe, sen tachas, girga bilobet, neentoni, dentro d'oro la di fondo San Domingo. Naia di Santiago, ten semalopi, ten cachas, girga bilocos, neentoni, dentro d'oro la di fondo San Domingo. Yeah, 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 yeah. Via di Santiago, tengo in alobe, c'è in caccias, circa bilocos, nei Antoni, dentro l'ora la di fondo, corra di bacio. La 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 la.
Wow. Applause for Eleanor Dubinsky and Dario Acosta, the one and only remote daily duo live from Astoria, Queens, New York City, who has a live daily artist in residence house band on Zoom. We have, and we're so proud of it. And thanks for joining us. This is Remote Daily, live from New York City, bringing together innovators for a daily dose of inspiration and support. Today is Tuesday, May 19th. I'm Felix Zeltner. I'm excited to be your host. And I'm very honored to see you all coming together in our virtual cafe, where we gather every day. In the first half of the hour, we host amazing guests and discuss with them, explore the future with them. Today's topic is social media theater as a portal into the future. And a friend of mine, architect, just said this morning, we're living in 2035, in his opinion. I think many of us, next to all the not so good things that are going on out there, next to the suffering and the grief, many of us feel that there are huge leaps forward taking place, happening right now. And I can't wait to see how our guests today look at this. We are live for this part of the hour. Not only on Zoom, we're also live on LinkedIn, hi out there, and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Out there on a live stream, if you want to be here, meet the community on Zoom, just RSVP at remotedaily.co. Because for the second half of the hour, we turn over Remote Daily to our family here on Zoom to connect with each other. And many beautiful things have happened here. To many, me included, this has become like a second family, even though we only started a few weeks ago, because it is a safe space to learn, to connect, to understand each other's experiences. Some of you telling us that they're canceling other meetings. Some of you send us emails saying, sorry, I can't be here today, but please keep doing it. And we will. I think we're building the interactive talk show of the future here. And I want to thank you all for being part of it. I'm going through the motions, just like all of you. Every day is a different challenge, but I'm lucky to have amazing people that are helping to put this together. My family is a big part of it. They're allowing me this hour, and also the people in the background who you can't see, Jolie McPhee running the live stream, Grace Cook taking care of our partnerships and our growth. And of course, then there's our amazing producer and co-host joining us live from Brooklyn, who is also facilitating today's conversation. Brit fam, Brit, it's great to see you. How are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. I am feeling a little chilly today. Pretty excited to host our talk today. And I do want to note, Christy earlier, who's one of our speakers, said that these days Zoom calls can be like business on the top, party on the bottom. So I put in my little earrings like 5 minutes before this, and I just want everyone to know that I'm wearing my slippers and my socks over my pants currently right now. So just keeping it real.
I love that phrase. Thank you. And yeah, I'm not wearing socks either. So let's just keep sharing. Brit, you're always helping us every day to sync with each other, to find peace and inner calm. So I'll just continue by handing you off the mic for our grounding breath of the day.
Cool. All right, so let's just take a minute to get grounded to this space, get present with each other, and really arrive to this video call that none of us get to walk into, so we're going to do our best to do that mentally. Go ahead and put your feet on the ground if you can, and roll your shoulders up and back and sit up just a little straighter than you were before. And on your next exhale, go ahead and soften, your eyes closed. Put your hands on your body, one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. And start to feel your natural rhythm, feel your heartbeat. Bring attention to your belly, let it rise and fall with your breath. And I invite you to take 4 deep, deep, fulfilling breaths. Breathe in through your nose, follow your breath down your throat, down your chest, through into your belly. Exhale. In and out. In and out. In and out. And as you return to your natural breath, just let go of anything that's not working for you. Maybe set an intention for the rest of your day. Drop your chin to your chest, let your hands fall to your side, and just wiggle it out a little bit. Shake it, roll your head, do whatever you need to do. And when you're ready, settle and arrive with your eyes open. Thank you, thank you, thank you for breathing with us, creating this space together. And I will pass it back to Felix.
Thank you so very much, Brit. Pleasure every day to do this with you. We have had many people reaching out to us saying this is why they're on Remote Daily. So thank you. And I invite you all to turn on your video just for a second if you feel comfortable doing so, and swipe on your Zoom app or go to the gallery view button on the desktop Zoom app and just say hi and wave, because we're here connected all over the world. Of course, there are the people here who join us just whatever happens. Tommy just said, I'm multitasking 2 calls at once, but I won't miss this ever. Big shout out to you, Tommy, to Long Island, and to your family sheltering your 4 kids. We learned a lot about Tommy and how hard he's working these days. And you all are. Joe, special shout out to you. And Chelsea, thanks for being back. Lucia, good to see you here. Christopher, thanks for being here. Yvonne, big pleasure seeing you. Jennifer, welcome back. We met in a meeting room yesterday in the breakout rooms. Jamie, welcome. Kyoko, it's good to see you. Lena, hi there. Thanks for joining us. Sabina, greetings to Germany. Makita, it's a pleasure having you. Michelle, hi there. Good to see you. And of course, our people that are here also in the background. Katie, Lena, Atlanta, it's a pleasure having you in the room. And of course, to everybody on the live stream out there. thank you for joining us for this hour. And just like most of you, I have my last sip of coffee next to my screen. So I'm just going to use that to cheer with you today. Use whatever you have, your water bottle, your champagne, cling, your virtual cling for the hour. Welcome to Remote Daily. And that said, I would like to give this beautiful room, this virtual cafe, to Britt to host our conversation. And by doing so, I invite our house band for our exclusive live Remote Daily jingle to welcome our guests of today. Here you go.
Hi, everyone. Before we play, I want to say a special hello to my friend Atlanta, who is joining us today for the first time. The Remote Daily family continues to grow. So welcome, Atlanta, and to everyone else who is new today. And this is for you. This is Remote Daily, your daily dose of inspiration. Welcome to Remote Daily, an oasis of innovation. For your mind, your soul, and your heart. Connect, act, and recharge with Remote Daily. This is Remote Daily.
Big claps, big snaps to Eleanor and Dario. Thank you for your time and talents. I love you guys. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Britt Pham. My pronouns are she, her, and I am hosting our fireside chat today. So I thought a lot about how to adequately introduce our speakers because they are creating something big. Nour Batyne and Christy Casey are the founders of Resilience 2032, which we've mentioned before, is a social media theater experience. And don't worry, we'll get to what that is in a second. But really what Resilience is a movement of storytelling, of futurist thinking. So to set the stage, the story of Resilience 2032 will unfold across multiple social media platforms set in the year 2032. Which is significant in that, one, it's a US election year, and two, it's when the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are 2 years overdue. And so as we live in our current time of uncertainty for what the immediate future even looks like, I'm very, very excited to create some perspective for what our long-term future looks like based on the decisions that we are making as a society right now. And as the Resilience 2032 website says, it's only 12 short years from now, but our world will look very different, especially if we fail to adequately address climate change, data ethics, and systemic inequality. So, with a big round of virtual applause for these two incredible women, please welcome Christy Casey and Nour Batyne. Hello. All right, so Christy and Nour, to start, where are you each located and how are you doing today? Christy, would you like to share first?
Sure. So I live in New York usually, but right now I'm in San Francisco. We were supposed to be doing 2 months of travel for this project when the pandemic hit, and I happened to be staying with a friend here. And when it came time to be like, well, am I going to look for a flight home instead of to Austin? We talked about it and I just stayed. So I am in San Francisco.
And it looks beautiful in your outdoor space right now.
Yes, much better than my tiny little New York apartment.
Nice. And Nour, where are you and how are you doing?
Great, thank you so much for that really awesome introduction. I am joining you from Brooklyn, New York, the ancestral homeland of Lenapehoking. Before many of our events, we do a land acknowledgement. And so, yes, I am in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn.
Thank you for that acknowledgement. And fun fact, everyone, Nour and I live like a few blocks away from each other. You might hear the siren outside coming through both of our microphones. So New York, baby. All right, so we have a lot to cover today. So let's just dive in. Let's lay the groundwork. Maybe Christy, you can answer this question.
Yep.
What is social media theater?
Yeah, so social media theater is a format of experiential entertainment that we are pioneering, more or less. The story unfolds across multiple platforms in real time, and it's driven by user-generated content. We call it social media theater because it's inherently interactive and it's live, and it unfolds very similarly to how our real news cycle does. So whether that's sharing fictional news articles, short videos, tweets, there's all kinds of content. Anything that you can share on real social media can be part of the story world. So we will be creating some meta-narrative content to lay the groundwork for the story. And then we'll also have prompts and challenges and things for users to create content that will incorporate into the story.
Got it. And you guys call these like different types of post artifacts, correct?
Yeah, so artifacts are, do you want to explain what an artifact is, Nour?
Yeah, so an artifact in the world of futures thinking is either a song or a tweet or an object from the future. And so as we co-create this experience with our participants, we are collaboratively creating artifacts from the future.
Got it. Okay. And Nour, maybe you can answer this next question, which is, why did you choose the year 2032 as the setting for this story?
Yeah. So you mentioned in our introduction that it happens to be an election year. So the story centers around a US presidential election happening in the year 2032. And we thought that we would also choose the year 2032 because of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of these goals, and they outline the interconnectedness of the global issues that our world is facing. And these goals are meant to be, they include certain targets that nation states are meant to be achieving by the year 2030. And so in the year 2 years after those goals were meant to be due, like you mentioned at the beginning, climate change happens to be a big theme, a main pillar for our story world. So is the future of data ethics and privacy and systemic issues that we are dealing with today and will be dealing with in the next 12 years around the data ecosystem that kind of governs our lives. As well as issues around systemic inequality, from gender inequality to limited access to connectivity, education, as well as immigration.
Yeah, got it. And for anyone who wants to read a little bit more about the Sustainable Development Goals, Felix just posted a great link in the chat, so go ahead and check that out on your own time for more. Nour, you mentioned a bevy of very important topics, but I wanted to talk about the election year specifically. So we all know that 2020 is a big election year in America. So I'm curious, how will the timeline of how this story rolls out parallel with our current reality? And what is your intention with engaging in this story this year? Why this year?
Christy, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the earliest inspirations for this project was like 2 years ago. I had created this little play test that was just a one actor, one participant, like very short thing. And the inspiration behind it was seeing the division that was so apparent during the 2016 election, but then continued to surface in the 2018 midterms and of course had been a thing long before. But the polarization of our parties was a big part of what we were exploring, of how can people look at the same piece of information and respond to it so disparately. And the realization and the understanding that polarization is part of what stops us from creating the change that needs to happen because we're stuck in these loops of like fighting with each other instead of working together to solve these issues. So as we're approaching this election and this next 10 years, which really are a pivotal moment when it comes to, I mean, now with COVID, which was not something that when we started this project, we had no idea that this would be the moment that it is. But we did know that when it comes to climate action, that like we're kind of at this point where we have to take extreme action now. And the actions that we're taking now will shape our long-term future. So going into the election and voting being such an important part of how we shape our future, that became this central part of the narrative.
Got it. And, you know, considering that it sounds like a lot of the intention is to have an impact on how folks are thinking about the future, who is your target audience? What do you hope that they'll take away from this story and learn from it?
Yeah. I would just add very briefly that to piggyback on Christy's response, that in having our discussions pre-COVID about, you know, what the next 12 years would look like, of course, issues around climate change were front mind, and we've assembled kind of what we're calling a brain trust of experts, and we host a weekly conversation with experts from various fields to kind of unpack the year 2032. And in a pre-COVID, we had assembled a panel of climate scientists and sustainability experts and activists to talk about what they think is going to happen over the next 12 years, and what kind of actions and inactions will shape our world in 2032. And the idea of a pandemic happening was something that we joked would be too apocalyptic or to introduce into our story world, or too dark. And then, you know, we didn't realize that like less than a month after that conversation, we would be living that future that we kind of feared. Yes, this pandemic is not related to a climate change related cause, but the pandemics of the future will be. And so it kind of grounded our work even more. And the urgency of getting present to our inactions today became really present to us, but also to the community that we are co-creating this experience with. And to answer your question, we have in our research, and specifically around looking at what it is to be a global citizen in the world today, a lot of young people in this country and around the world are left out of conversations and are disengaged from the very important core issues that will be informing their future. And so our platform and our social media theater experience is an invitation to those grassroots activists that are working in their communities to elevate issues that are affecting their lives and their futures, but it's also to address the disengaged youth that have been left, that do not have a seat at the table. And because of the nature of it being virtual and the nature of the issues being so interconnected, yes, the story centers around the US presidential election, but the whole world is watching the US election, and the decisions that are made in the US have ripple effects all around the world, and policies that are made in the US and the tone that is set at the US presidential federal level is affects the smallest of corners all around the world. So we know and acknowledge the importance of the next generation of youth in this country being aware of their global citizenship and the interconnectedness of our future.
Got it. I love that. I think that's so interesting. And Nour, you touched a little bit on like how, at the very beginning stages, you thought a pandemic was too dark, and
yes,
we are now.
Mm-hmm.
You decided to put a pandemic into the story. So I'm really curious about what like user engagement will look like and how the content will be driven by user engagement. So can you kind of create some context around how users will be able to engage with the artifacts? And yeah, just start there.
Do you want to take that, Christy?
Sure. So the artifacts that we're engaging, we fully recognize that a lot of people will kind of follow this like episodic content. So you can think of it kind of like a TV show that's in little bite-sized pieces and unfolds across social media. But we will also be creating a series of polls, prompts, challenges. The actors will be directly conversing with anyone who responds to these posts. And we are working to create these sorts of prompts that will invite participants to actually become a character in the story. So for the people who do get really engaged in it, they will actually be able to play off of our actors, and we will incorporate that material into the story world, and we'll be consciously creating moments in the story world where their polls, their actions or inactions will affect the way the trajectory of the story goes. So that is part of the design of the experience. As we are creating the content, first priority is how are we inviting participants to play with us?
Got it. Yeah. This reminds me a lot of like role play games or very off topic, not very off topic. On topic is a Twitter thread that went viral a couple of years ago around, you can take on the role of Beyonce's assistant and then you get to choose which way you want to go. So I think a lot about that. I'll find the link and I'll post it in the chat for everybody for reference. So I also want to take that a step further, Christy. This is going to play out on social media. We use social media constantly in our current. How are you going to separate fact from fiction, and what are the ethical implications of telling such a relevant story in such a polarizing time in our country or in America?
So like I touched on before, this idea of like fact versus fiction, or like what is truth or what is true or not true, is kind of like at the baseline of what we're exploring. So this asking people how they determine or how they decide what is true and not true is something that I think everyone needs to be questioning constantly in our world, because deepfakes are about to become a huge thing. We've already have bots and disinformation. But as far as how like we are communicating that, our platforms will always be explicit that this is fiction. This is not true. Also, the fact that we're putting the year 2032 as often as possible, it should hopefully have this effect where people will like look at it and go like, whoa, what's that? I didn't know that was true. And then they'll look a little bit closer and they'll see, oh, 2032, wait, what? And then if they follow it and go to any of our platforms, they'll be able to see, oh, this is a theater piece. This is not real life. So it will be very easy for them to find, hey, this is not reality, but we're asking you to explore how reality might be affected by these issues.
Yeah. And to take that a step further, Christy, because you mentioned like bots and deepfakes and all that stuff, Nour, maybe you can answer this question, is that we were just talking before this call about Zoom bombing, and some of you on this call know that we here on Remote Daily, we're Zoom bombed, and it sucks. So, with social media theater being completely new territory, a new format, what can you see as some dangers that you'll have to contend with?
Yes. We actually also got Zoom bombed on one of our 2022 conversations that we host every Saturday. And just to clarify, because I don't think we mentioned that the social media live theater experience will take place starting this August to parallel the election. So from now until then, we are in our research kind of story world building phase, where we host a weekly conversation on Saturday, the 2032 conversations. And then we host a weekly collaborative writers room session, our futurist writers room. It happens Wednesday afternoons. And so this version of our process has included obviously the same kind of transitioning to the virtual Zoom life, we've had to enforce passwords and registration links so that to avoid Zoom bombers. But in the same way that trolls exist in the social media universe and are out there, we are expecting them. But the platforms that already exist have their own sets of procedures to help flag, these trolls. So we are relying and leaning into the current existing infrastructure of the social media platforms that exist. But as we go deeper into the experience, we will have various levels of engagement. And I won't go too much into that because it's a little early to discuss, but it'll make more sense once we go live in August, where there'll be more exclusive spaces for the story world to live, protected from potential trolls.
Just to add a little bit to that of like, our feeds are our feeds. So even if trolls post something, that won't get reposted to our feeds. So we can have the curatorial power there. And we can also incorporate the trolls into the story of like, you don't want to feed the trolls. But if that's part of our real world, that can very much be part of the fictional world and embracing that.
But we will not be amplifying any any messaging that is not in alignment with our values and ethics. And that's we are taking that very seriously and discuss that constantly.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I love that you brought that up because Nour, as you were speaking about leaning into the current infrastructures of social media, like it seems like a very meta opportunity to include like the flaws that our current infrastructures of social media have. Like some things are taken down that like questionable if they should have been taken down, and some things are not taken down that for sure should be taken down. So I really, really look forward to seeing how you guys incorporate that into the story. Mm-hmm. To touch on something that you mentioned, Nour, I think it might have been you or Christy. I'm curious where the story will live after the 2020 election, after the story is done of rolling out. You mentioned that you would have some platforms that are troll secure. So what's the game, like end game here?
Yeah, so the end game is that we have so our election day in the fictional world is going to be on October 12th, which happens to be Columbus Day, which in our 2032 future is now Columbus Day doesn't exist and it has been replaced with Election Day. So and then, as you know, the US election voting takes place on November 3rd. So there will be a space for us to digest as a community, the Resilience 2032 community, to kind of reflect on the story, on how the community chose to end the narrative. And that's kind of, it's a completely co-created, it's going to be a completely co-created ending. So we want to make sure that there's that time and space for our community to feel like they can also reflect on it. But in terms of longer past our Resilience 2032 social media theater experience, our mission is to democratize access to futures thinking. We believe in the power of collective imagination, of speculative design, and of using theater and role play and storytelling as a way to engage people into really complex issues. And so that our mission will continue beyond the 2032 theatrical experience that will end this year. If that answers. Christy, do you want to add?
Yeah. So we are still, depending on budget, how it's archived, but we're going to create some sort of archive of the content that's created through the story that can live and be shared, talked about, reflected upon in various ways. And then in the future, we plan to produce more of these experiences with different stories and different versions of the future, whether they last as long as this 3-month thing, or if it's an evening dinner that's just a one-night event.
I mean, pre-COVID, we had plans to fundraise to be able to film, to create like a documentary film that would document the process, and the story world would exist, yes, on social media, and it would also with some live immersive events that took place.
Yes.
But that's not happening anymore. So it kind of changed, you know. So we have been pivoting and adapting to the world as we know it today.
Yeah, amazing. Sort of last question. I want to know or offer to folks, I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat right now, like, is there an example? This sounds like fun, can't wait to see. For people who want to get involved, how can they?
Yeah. So the best way to stay up to date right now would be to join our mailing list and follow us on social media. So our website is resilience2032.com, and we are at Resilience2032 on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, pretty much all the platforms. And right now we have the 2 events, which we mentioned, and there's a link in the chat to where you can find those events. So that's where you can get involved right now. Then once the Story World launches in August, there will be lots of prompts and ways to engage with the story once we're live.
Amazing.
Yes.
And so this is my actual last question for both of you. What are your hopes and dreams for what the year 2032 will look like? Perhaps, Christy, you go first.
Oh, this is a big question. So hopes and dreams, we hope that of the future, like we're painting the picture of a future where like there's still a lot of work to do in these 3 main pillar areas, but we really hope that like people are just more aware of these issues, and that we are a more equitable society where people are engaged and their voices are being heard, so that if everyone's educated on these issues, that they can be engaged in the conversation, that they can realize that they are part of the solution and the problem, but they're a part of the solution, so that we can help bring that education and empower people to realize that they can be part of the change.
Yes. And I mean, I mentioned apocalyptic or apocalypse before, and in our research, I found out that the root of the word apocalypse is a Greek word, and the root of it means revelation, when something is actually being revealed. And so, if anything, this pandemic has really exposed and revealed the faulty structures and systems that govern our lives, and exposed the disparities even further. And I think that as we look to the future, there's a lot that I want to take with us into the future, in terms of, you know, how people have been, the spirit and the values that connect us, and how people have been stepping up for each other in light of grief and in this, you know, difficult circumstances. I hope that in the next 12 years, women are playing a much bigger role across all sectors, including as well as people of color and diversity. In the year 2045, the US is going to be majority minority, and so I hope for the voices and narratives that have been silenced for so long to be amplified. And
Amazing. Thank you both so much for sharing about this project, about your hopes and dreams. I think that the remote daily community on this call right now is a group of just incredibly powerful people, incredibly warm, kind people who I know want a better future as well. And I'm really excited to see how Resilience 2032 grows. And I really encourage everyone on here to get involved because, you know, your voice matters and your ideas matter and you matter. So thank you, both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Britt. Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions and to feed it to the remote daily community. Honestly, it's been really special spending this this time with you, and we're grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So grateful for this platform. So
thank you. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay, so as y'all know, we use this time to transition. We're going to give Remote Daily to you to discuss. Felix is going to queue up the breakout rooms, and you should get a little notification that says join breakout room, and maybe you'll be in with